Is there anybody in the audience that, and since it's been kind of a sausage tea party up here,
named Thomas C. Howell?
I will go with a ladies first rule, but I'm just more curious. Is there anybody in the audience who's kind of a veteran protester, somebody who's been at like more than like 5 protests? Nobody. Wow. We're
4 protests.
Well, that's important to note too. Like we're all. I mean, you guys are like me. Like we don't. We've entered new times where like.
What about
lower the number?
What about a woman that was women here that were at the women's march?
You're just coming up. You didn't raise your hand, but you're. Okay, no, it's fine. And you definitely. I don't. Yeah, you look like a protester. Come on up. Hey, yeah. Man. What's your name? I'm Harry. Harry. Okay, it's Harry. Everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Do you want a pickle?
No, I actually really don't like pickles. I will take a vodka.
You'll love these pickles.
These pickles are pretty good,
Pickles are
man.
like cats. Everyone thinks I'll love their cat. Everyone thinks I'll love their pickles.
Well, everyone's cats are bad, but these pickles are good.
So, Harry...
These pickles are off the fucking deep end, Harry.
Dan.
Treat yourself to one of these pickles.
I'm going to stick with no pickles.
Harry,
take the pickle.
I'm protesting these pickles.
Don't
protesting
make
Drink that dill juice, Harry. Harry, drink that dill juice. Harry, come on, you fucking pussy. Drink that dill juice, man.
No, I mean, I'm definitely scared to drink that.
No, drink it. Drink that dill juice.
Dill juice.
Fucking Harry, drink it. Fucking pussy, man. Harry's not drinking the dill juice. Drink that dill juice.
No.
All right. On the graph,
Harry,
the amount of laughs toward time spent on this bit, like we peaked, and now we're gonna ride downhill into the next segment. Harry.
Yes.
So it was my first protest. I had to be flown into it.
I was also there.
Were you there at the LAX?
Yeah.
When we shut that shit down, arrivals and departures.
But I was also there like days prior and after.
Fuck you, high
people.
road.
No. This isn't for use for them. You got off on an airplane.
I know. I was flown in with luggage.
No, people like.
I was like, hell no, we won't go. Not until my dog sitter is off duty.
I don't know if it's because like some get more traction than others on social media, but people seem to like arbitrarily choose when to go to things that are like consistent. Like the Women's March was like a set thing that happened at a time on a day. LAX was like, we kind of need you here always because there's planes keep coming in and people keep being detained, and like if you're trying to be there to just be like a physical body of support, like that's always needed until this shit changes.
And so, well, I'm going to skip over a topic that'll make me babble for too long and put my foot in my mouth, which is, but to hold the pin, I want to get back to this topic after the next one, which is I think white people need to go to protests more than other people. White people sitting at their keyboard at home are doing 3 times as much by not doing anything it's because society is unfair. It's because of all. I said I wouldn't talk about it, but put a pin in that. White people need to go to more protests.
Put a pin in it, Harry.
And move that pin in accordance with the LAPD's wishes every 5 minutes. That's my next topic. So when I was at
LAX,
they
eat a fucking pickle.
What is obviously the LAPD has more experience than any protester out there as an organization. Maybe not the actual cool cucumbers, the very ethnically diverse cool cucumbers they put out on the front lines. As human beings, I gotta say, the first thing that hits your mind as a first-time protester being there was like. I love these protesters and I love the LAPD. That was it was like this weird thing, but then throughout the evening, by the time I got home, I was like, oh, we got played. It's like oh, peaceful protest. Everyone was so proud of how peaceful the protest was. Well, the protest was peaceful because the protest was run by the LAPD.
Yeah.
And every time somebody started chanting "fuck the police," everybody would go like, "Peaceful protest, peaceful protest." We wouldn't want anyone to get arrested, tear gassed, all these things. But it's really tough because basically the protesters ended up making a deal with the LAPD. They were in constant contact with them, which I thought was a glorious thing. There is a positivity to that, right? There is a positive message that sends, especially when the cops aren't the ones holding the detainees. I know you're going like, Dan, what is your question? No. But like the LAPD isn't in charge of the detainees, you working with them, cooperating with them. It actually does provide these like spine-tingling opportunities to be like, hey, maybe you guys should be over here too. You are all like a rainbow of people descended from, whose family tree goes up 2 feet without an immigrant in it. You're just wearing riot gear because that's your job. Like, get over here. And it's like, there's some moments where it was like, they might do it.
I saw an airport cop, technically not LAPD. I forget the exact distinctions there. But he cried when one of the detainees got released, and then I called him on it, and he quickly got really macho about it and like wiped his tears off.
Jeff's girlfriend took some great pictures of Church. She could just be Church. She doesn't have to be Jeff's girlfriend. What a fucking horrible society this is.
She loves pickles.
She got there too late in the game to like if she had been there. She's an amazing photographer. Nothing makes you realize more than photos, like how the history that we're living, and you see it because it looks like Time Magazine.
Let's bring Church up. She's sitting right here.
Okay.
Church, Cassandra Church.
Just the pictures. Hello. The pictures that you took of that young lady who had she had decided to focus her emotional energy on one cop as if that itself were a weapon, quote unquote weapon. It's not destructive. That was probably both a tactic and a very sincere thing because she was unmistakably sincere. And the cop, you said, well, you describe it.
Well, it was when I first got there. And as you say, they were in the street for a little while and then bringing people back up onto the sidewalk. And at this point, this is when all the police started pushing everybody back up onto the sidewalk. And this one particular girl caught my eye because as a photographer, I pushed my way to the front to try to get a view of everyone facing the police. And this one girl was just glued on this guy. And she had just tears rolling down her face. And her sign said, Syria, Yemen, Iran, welcome here, with a heart. She was sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. I was leaning off the curb practically onto an officer who just kind of leaned back and acted like I wasn't doing it because he could see what I saw and what I was trying to photograph.
They were being very nice to photographers.
They were being incredibly nice to photographers. At one point, I was on an overpass looking down at these guys, and they were smiling and waving and laughing and taking photos of me with their phones. And then they were all just on Instagram. They were hanging out. They were fine. There was absolutely no problem. But I couldn't hear what was being said between the girl and the officer in front of her, but he was whispering to her and trying to calm her down. And they were having some conversation that I couldn't hear from where I was standing, but he seemed to be consoling her.
Right.
She was pleading something with him and trying to get him to understand, and from what I could tell by their gestures...
Probably something along the lines of, I'm just doing my job.
Right, and he's probably saying something like, I know, I understand, and I'm just doing my job. It's okay, just stay back on the curb.
And that could be the most important interaction that you have with police, is getting them to admit that they're just doing their job, reminding them that the whole time, because that means they don't have to be mad, they don't have to be... But on the flip side of that, so that's why I wanted to have a hanky face, as now I call them, because I was looking around, I'm like, these hanky faces, they're are the hankies for an anonymity or tear gas?
People have their own reasons for them.
So a lot of it's just style.
There's also an argument. I can't defend it for various reasons or object to it. There's some articles going around about how masking up is a form of white privilege, because if you're a white person, then you still blend into the crowd. Whereas if there's only a few people of color at the thing, they're easier to identify.
I didn't even follow. I didn't track that at all.
It's just some 2017 internet race commentary.
I would say at this age, I think there's probably, it's rooted, masking up is
it's
probably...
rooted in anonymity.
It's okay.
Because
because it's not going to filter out.
No, not at all. Not at all. Certain things will. The Home Depot guy who I also saw, his would have helped out a bit. But yeah, I mean, if they throw tear gas, you're sunglasses and fabric aren't going to do shit.
So at a certain point, before church got there, this is what happened, I think this could be a microcosm of what we're all facing. If we're all going to be protesting and marching, it's like this is a really difficult thing because there was an exhilaration in the air, and part of the pride on the part of the protesters was, in no uncertain terms, the fact that we were working in what you have to call cooperation with the LAPD. That felt like a triumph. Now, you're dealing with a police department that has been at a million of these, but on the other hand, all of these individual police officers are human beings, as are the protesters. But when I get home and I see basically that the protest got successfully broken up, and I look back at it, it's like there was this moment where we were all standing and blocking the upper concourse, and one of the megaphone people said, here's the deal. The cops are saying so far we haven't broken the law. Because they haven't issued a disperse order. When they issue a disperse order, we have a decision to make. Are we going to become criminals and turn this into a thing that's going to end up being a news item about how we were criminals and how the crime had to be put down? Alternatively, they've offered us a deal. They've said that we can stand on the sidewalk for 15 minutes or 30 minutes and then disrupt for 10 minutes and then do that in alternation. And there was a pause, and then someone called out, 15 minutes, 20, 15. And it turned to The Price is Right about how we got the nuts here. And it's like, I'm not disparaging that. I'm just pointing out the absurdity of it. It's not because what happened was a wedge got driven in between the people that have done this before and were not necessarily hoping things would deteriorate, but at the same time, probably like that we're prepared for it. And that's always going to be a smaller group. And so that is a tactic, right? Because rather than bother throwing tear gas at a large group of people that feels solidified, to stay in communication with them and to say, oh, we love Che Guevara. Che Guevara is your spokesman. We just talked to Che Guevara. Che, tell your people what we're telling them. We're telling you can have free bananas if you give us half of your guns. And then there's like all of this stuff like starts to you foment like a conversation among the protesters. Before that, there was no conversation.
I feel like if there were a couple things that made that specific. One, it was. If church, like you were at the Ferguson protests here in LA.
Yeah, and it was a very different thing.
If it was 2,000 black people at the airport, I think it would have been different. And also, if it weren't an airport, it would have been different. They don't want to start putting chemical like agents out into an airport.
But all that is to say that we had the leverage. We had the airport shut down. Now I don't know what our leverage translated to. But sorry, go ahead, Harry.
There's also a difference between a protest like the Women's March, where it's organized, it's in the daytime, they block off streets, and everybody knows where it's going to be and where the people will be going generally and what the plan is.
Right.
Versus at night, people just taking to the street because they're angry, or people showing up to a place like the airport that already has high security.
Okay, so Harry...
So the reaction is completely different by a police force coming out to try to contain and make sure that that's under control.
And where there's multiple law enforcement agencies.
Right. What I'm wondering is then because what happened was there were some hardcore elements that were like, no, then nothing happens. This is how they drive a wedge. And then there were my here I am, 44. I'm hungry. My dogs are about to start pissing in the house. I've been there for 5 hours. Like, I didn't want, the last thing I wanted to do was be a pussy. But
you didn't see the girl who brought burritos?
No, there was plenty of
you left right before the burrito guy came out. She brought a bunch of fucking burritos.
Saying, to the extent that I'm up in the air, like a situation got created where now conversations are starting to happen. Like logic was invited, and I remember distinctly the moment where I felt at peace with stepping off of the street and onto the sidewalk, i.e., basically surrendering. The moment where I felt that was okay, where I wouldn't then go home and hate myself for giving in, was because there were like only a couple of people left who were arguing with each other, and one of them was screaming at the ones who wanted to stay and sit and get arrested. It's not about you. And she's not wrong. There was this messaging that was put into it. It was like, do we want the detainees to be in the newspaper? Do whatever, the HuffPo's laser beam, the hologram, the Pokemons. Do we want the story to be about the detainees, or do we want it to be about how a bunch of hippies got stun gunned at the airport? Okay, so now, so I at that moment I was like, here, I've done all the talking, but I want to be like, here's the thing: first protest, 44 years old, like so used to always doing the wrong thing. Like I always like think that I'm like, oh, it sounds like this, and then I'll like be so embarrassed. That's when I was like, okay, I now have permission to step on the sidewalk because this very passionate young woman is going like, it's not about you, and she's talking to like 4 or 5 people, and like. I don't know, and I won't know until someone else tells me whether it's the right thing to do to sit down, or leave. And I was like, what if I undercut the fucking cause? It was like a community creator and famous fat guy. There he is. It's like, what if that ends up in like being some kind of counter messaging or whatever? So now talk to me. Tell me what to do.
I think, well, sort of contrary to that request, I think it's important, no matter which side of an issue you're on, not to tell other people protesting the same thing how to protest. Whether that means if someone wants to get arrested for their cause, let them make that decision.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to chant a chant and hold a sign, let them make that decision. I think it's important to know what you're trying to accomplish and if what you're doing is everything you could be doing to accomplish that. So, like, if you want to make real change in government policy, holding a sign and chanting a chant isn't going to do that.
Because they've now incorporated that into their system if they hadn't already 60 years ago.
Yeah, well, and it's just like that's you being, by going to the airport, you're being a physical body supporting a message as well as actual people who are detained. But, like, if you have any illusions that what you're doing in that is really affecting larger change, which I think was one thing. Some people gave the Women's March kind of a bad rep for this, but I thought it was cool that they almost owned up to, like, we don't have a list of demands. We just want to make sure you know we're here and we're not fucking cool with this stuff.
Which I thought was so, that was the most important thing.
You could look at it either
turned out
way.
Body count was the thing that was important. It was flesh scraping cement poured into the streets in every city around the world. That really got to our enemy.
So, like, if you go to a protest and the police give you a directive, it's basically just up to you to assess what it is you're trying to do and if listening to that directive or disobeying it is going to further your cause. So, like, if you're there just for moral support, maybe don't get arrested.
Uh-huh.
Or do. Like, that's your choice, but it's not going to... If you get arrested, you're not going to be able to be the body there,
right,
showing your support.
So what, so what do you think? You were there, did you? Yeah. And so you were like, you know what? For what we've done, we shut down the airport. Like LAX is not the epicenter of this. The LAPD is not in charge. Did you thought it was cool to just like shrink back and kind of like continue to have a presence there? It's like it becomes kind of a picket line in the sense that it's like a physical reminder.
Yeah, it sort of becomes up to you. Also, like, having had been there for over a day already and knowing I was going to continue to be there, like, those cops work long shifts. They come to recognize people who are there enough. If I'm going to continue to be there and do what I think is my best foot forward to help my cause or whatever, getting arrested doesn't help that. These cops recognize me already as the guy who's been here all week. Like, it's not useful for me to step to them. I know they're
Harry,
not the enemy.
How much time have you spent out there at LAX? Like, you've been there for multiple days? Or?
Yeah. I haven't been in a couple days because at a certain point I was like, oh, I need to make rent money. But I was there for like 4 or 5 days, not sleeping there because I was like, I have a home to go to and I don't want to be more of a nuisance than by design.
Well, I found a good tactic because we just gotten off a plane. Like Dan said, I had my suit, my Vivienne Westwood's garment bag over my shoulder. And I'm dressed like me, and there's a bunch of hippie. Did you get Harry? And I know we all saw that dude that was the kind of the Native American guy with a drum that was just being the most punk rock dude in the world.
The tiny drum.
Yeah,
he was there a lot.
There was this guy dressed up like just this native like Incan. I don't know what he was. just banging a drum right in the cops' faces, and they didn't they just let him do it. It was so cool
because they don't give a shit.
Yeah, because he was just this great drum major for the whole thing. But there was a moment when the organizers of the protest at LAX were saying, okay, guys, we need people upstairs and downstairs at the same time. So if you guys are comfortable going upstairs, we want to spread this out. Also, we need people inside to welcome the people coming out. So let's make sure that we're all here and we're all there. So Church and I think Dan and Cody had just gone. You guys just split. And this is like 10 p.m. and we got there at 5. We went downstairs and it was time to go back into the street and disrupt things. So the cops said we can go and be disruptive for 15 minutes. And we can be off the sidewalk and be out in traffic and
Your
blocking.
next scheduled disruption will be permitted in T-minus.
Just so right-wingers are roasting you online for listening to cops, just so everyone's aware. Like, if you go and watch a right-wing chat room where they're, periscoping the protest, they're just like, look at these fucking idiots listening to police. Like, they don't know what they're doing.
Really? The right-wing people say that?
Yeah, because they're like, oh, you think you're making a change, but you're sitting here obeying cops, which I'm not.
So those also because they don't know the difference between a protest and a riot.
Yeah.
And also, hilariously, while it was happening, every 30 minutes, because it's LAX, hello, I'm Mayor Eric Garcetti.
While Eric Garcetti is not at the airport.
It's really funny. There's a guy painted blood red with a Native American drum in a cop's ear going, boom, boom, this is democracy. This is what democracy looks like, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, hello, I'm Eric Garcetti. I'm like, not a good time, Eric.
But we were a small group of people going downstairs to block the downstairs traffic too. And again, I feel bad about anybody that missed a plane or all that shit. That's a bummer. But we were trying. There was a lot of people being detained, and we were hoping that being there was going to get all these people released. It turns out 25 did get released, and then during that time, 100 more people got detained.
But planes keep coming in.
Yeah,
right.
That's the central issue of what's going on at LAX that I think needs to be remembered. Yes, there's a bigger picture of Trump's executive orders in the large scale and overall policies about immigration, but specifically what's going on is people are being illegally detained and denied access to food, water, lawyers, family,
healthcare.
That's what's happening.
Yeah, there was
babies,
a woman
elderly.
there
It doesn't
with
matter.
stage 4 cancer.
Not even from just those 7 countries. They detained an Aeromexico flight of 100 passengers.
What?
A woman from Amsterdam. They're just. CBP is being crazy.
If you're a privileged white guy that has access to a garment bag, here's a little tip: go to a protest. Look like you just landed. Look like you didn't show up to the protest planning to be at the protest. And have a garment bag, and you get to walk up to the police and talk to them, and they absolutely give you the full order of information that you don't get if you look like a protester. Because we all walked into the street, and they all lined up, put their sticks up, their masks down on their helmet shields, and started marching us back off the street. And it's back on the curb, back on the sidewalk, back on the sidewalk. And we had a deal. And they're, nope, you got to go back on the street. So I just I went out of the crowd because I'm a tall, privileged white guy with a garment bag.
We had a deal. We had a deal. Jess starts walking over.
Awesomely, all the men got off the street. All the women in the group stayed in this fucking street and were right chin up to the cops saying no, we had a fucking deal. And the cops back on the street. So I went down like Goldilocks and asked 3 different cops. I put my suit garment over my shoulder like I'm a Cary Grant. Hey, hello, matey. Did we change the deal? What's the difference now?
We had a deal.
And he goes, back on the curb, sir. I want you another cop. Hey, I thought we had a deal. 30 minutes on the sidewalk and 15 minutes in the road. And I wasn't really doing my bad Cary Grant impression.
Really committing to it.
But I was I thought did things change? What's going on, man? I thought you told these kids there was a thing. And the second cop goes, no, you got to get back on the sidewalk, sir. I went all the way down, the very last cop. I said, hey, wasn't there a thing going on where there was we could be on the thing for 30 minutes, out in the street for 15 minutes? And the guy kind of paused and looked around, and he goes, you have to be in the sidewalk. We were just out
the crosswalk.
The crosswalk. We have to be out in the crosswalk. And everyone, I ran back to the group.
We had a deal.
We got a deal. I go, everybody.
We had a deal.
Over to the crosswalk. Crosswalk.
Go to the crosswalk. Go to the crosswalk.
And the cops, the LAPD, stood on both sides of the crosswalk and protected us and let us do our thing for a while. So, like, I couldn't believe at an airport how nice they were being about that deal, because I think it was because it's an airport. Like, they don't want to start shit when it doesn't need to be.
They weren't going to throw tear gas anywhere near the door to LAX.
Exactly.
Well, and I hope, and I think our hearts were filled with hope, and perhaps naively, perhaps we're being laughed at for having this hope, is that it's the LAPD. Their job is to serve and protect the people of Los Angeles. These people, children of immigrants themselves, descending on this international hub of commerce, because LA fucking pumps and thrives with immigrant energy, foreign blood. That's America. That all of those cops also, as civil servants, are like, I am here to protect your freedom of speech. I think we all felt that high of like, the cops are being chill right now because they know we're right and they want us to win. And that allowed us to make deals with them and get high off of that. Oh, the teacher put an apple on my desk. I think one thing that's really important is that this sea of there's like 150 people in this room, and this is a scientific important statement, not a shaming one, that absolutely nobody here yet, this is like my predominantly white audience, and certainly all of them, regardless of gender, background, whatever, they're all nerds. They're all like analytical thinkers, and we've all been guilty of this where we sit and we're watching what's happening, and you don't want to side with a dirty, belligerent hippie any more than you want to side with a fascist cop. Like your instinct, because you are like me, like you're like, you want to be Han Solo. He's the smart one. He's the logical one. You were an individualist. Like that's your American values. That's the way you express how you are. You don't see any merit in joining a throng. What good could come of that? And I don't want to ever tell you what to do. And I'm proud of the fact that my audience has never protested. But like, I'm now saying, like, because this time is crucial. I'm 44. If you're 25, you may have been a child when the dangling Chad election happened, and you felt like, well, this is just sort of how it goes. There's a lot of contention sometimes. This is nothing like that. Like, we're living in a fucking history book right now, and shit is going down, and we don't have to be doomsayers, but we don't have to choose between that and being naive, but I think that it is valuable for us to get out there, and it's easier than you think to just go, like, well, maybe it's easier than you think. Let's ask Harry. Like, you can show up to this shit and no one is going to demand that you handcuff yourself to a redwood tree and get cut down with it. Like you can show up and dip your toe in. You can bring Krispy Kreme donuts. Like if you believe in privilege, then privilege is a weapon at these places. Like your lily white face, your lack of antagonism, like as unfair as it is to a cop that's looking through a riot helmet, like it actually can be a tool that you're not using if you don't go to these things. So Cody and I are, we're figuring it out. Like, we got to go to this shit. I think Black Lives Matters protests must be in dreadful need of big fat white people just to go into the middle. There's a hand raised here. Let's all do it right now. There's got to be a protest going. Well, that's
the thing is, we have a president who doesn't read and doesn't probably know how to read well. And whether he's dyslexic or he just has whatever, like he's just like a willfully ignorant person, he cannot and does not look at words, but he does look at images. And I think the only thing that can really fuck him up is the visual, stunning images of a zillion people protesting his every fucking move. And I think the thing that fucked him off more than anything in the world was the day after his shittily attended inauguration was that women and a couple honorable honorary dudes got to go out there and filled the streets, the biggest protest in the country's history. And he does see pictures because he's a child. He wouldn't. Yeah. So we have to go to every fucking thing.
And Harmenians are. You're on the spectrum. You're logical. You're thinking like we need your we need you to like just. No one wants you to be different. No one wants you to be less logical, less analytical, less alienated, less isolated. I'm just suggesting for a second that logical, analytical brain. What's that?
Hear him out. Hear him out. Why?
Everyone but that guy is invited.
I'll answer your question in a second, sir. I think I know what your question is. I will.
Why do we need white people for the Black Lives Matter movement?
Because Black Lives Matter protests
Define
are
we.
not suggesting that black lives are the only ones that matter. And
No, absolutely.
right, okay,
We're sitting here saying we need white people
right.
to make this movement matter.
Because cops love us is the answer.
Because
Yes,
cops-
but it's also very important, like, as white people, assess the value you bring to the table, some of which is your privilege, but also, like, don't forget to listen to people who are way more disenfranchised than you. Like, if you show up to a Black Lives Matter protest as a white person, fucking listen to the black people when they tell you what to do or to not do.
Yeah, Church, like you were saying at the Ferguson thing that you were among the white people at the Ferguson protest, and that you got big respect and like lots of love for being there, right?
Oh well, I was among many white people who were there joining them in their effort because and the conversation that I had with a couple of girls as we marched and were met by police every time we turned a corner was the fact that they were happy that I was there and to see so many white people turning up to support them, and not just white people, but Mexicans coming out and being like, yeah, like Black Lives Matter, because what they need is to not be preaching to the choir and to not just be yelling amongst themselves was how they communicated it to me. They're like, we need the community to show that they support this idea,
I
whether
want to be
they're
able to
black
connect
themselves
with this guy
or not.
because he may be voicing like an id part of the brain that's like or not to diminish that, but it's like I want to make sure I understand to the extent that you're speaking for some part of our brain, like, well, what's the point of all of this egalitarianism if we're talking about these, like, now we're going to become little fascists and say we need more white people here and we need black people here, like we're becoming too racially conscious. And maybe that's part of what you're responding to is like, wait, I thought you were liberals. Why are we now talking about people like they're insects and sorting them by race? Isn't that what we're trying to get away from? I'm not putting words in your brain, but like maybe that's like what you're responding to.
White people listen to other white people too. Like historically, they don't listen to black voices.
Exactly.
So like while you shouldn't
white
as a white
less.
person be the person in charge, like be the messenger to your white friends. Sure.
But also there's another thing. It's like just even if you don't leave your apartment, like that analytical brain of yours that fires on the pistons, it's really, really easy. It feels really comfortable. It's like a foot slipping into a warm ugg. Like to fall back on that. If you're Spock and you're watching what's happening right now, you're definitely like if you commit to that Vulcan energy, you are definitely always going to be like, well, none of this really makes any sense. It doesn't really make sense to do anything. Doing stuff will never hold up to logic. And I think that it's just like, all I'm saying is, like, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you that your drunk uncle, who has spent, like, a really criminally long time, like, not giving a shit about this stuff, is, like, super alarmed, and you can chalk that up to, like, oh, your drunk uncle's gotten to that age where you start caring about that shit. 45-year-old people are uncharismatically political. Like, that's what happens. I'm 25. I fucking care about Bitcoin. I don't give a shit about this. But I don't know that you're wrong. I will only just tell you that your drunk uncle has decided that this is fucking, like, we're entering a crossroads of, like, there's Fourth Reich or there's, like rebirth or probably something in between. But, like, as people keep saying, like, all those fantasies about time traveling and going back to these points in history and what would you do if you were there. You are actually in one right now. And you have never been in one. I have never been in one. I'm 44 and I never did this. I voted for Ross Perot when I was 18 and thought, like, I was like, yeah, fucking stiff the system. And so I guess I thought, because there was a third party allowed at the debates, and I was like, this guy's neat. And he's like, what do I care about abortion? Balance the budget. God damn it. If a raccoon don't hunt, who cares if it's pregnant? And I was like, so, and it's worth noting that probably makes me a guy that might have been susceptible to a kind of like weird, hacky Trump like kind of thing, like if I was 23 these days. But I doubt a lot of those people are in my audience. But I at the same time, I think a lot of my listeners are probably like very wisely, guardingly, like, yeah, but I don't want to be one of these like liberals that like screams and shrieks and goes like you that like I hate, you know, like it's like it throws your logic triggers. You go like that can't be a good result. Like this is all about escalation. I see that a lot. All I'm saying is, so then what you could do is like, and if we have to coordinate it like through this podcast or something, so that you know, for instance, hey, I'll be there too, and we'll have donuts and coffee and let's go to this shit.
I would say let's put out whatever we can do to put out that bat signal and say like because we live in LA, like let's make sure that the people that live here know that like if it matters, we're going there. And also let's find out like for people that are listening around the country and around the world where they're going to go, and let's all like make a loud noise. Like Spencer, I want to ask you, because you've been very vocal like Twitter and stuff like that about like your. You know, like you've been very activist, like talking about stuff. Are you a physical activist, like want to go out and do stuff, or are you more like? I'm not making a joke. Like, are you someone that would actually get out there and like?
No, my flight came home a day early, so
no, I
did not make it out.
I'm not making a joke. But like, are you someone that would take to the streets? Like, would you get out there and like?
I'm for it, sure.
Yeah. I say we do it. Certainly, there's the one in L.A. for the tax thing on was it?
That's not till like April though.
April, yeah.
Yeah, no, there was a march today at Pershing Square.
Yeah, there was. Today was
there's
no
loads
dapple.
of marches all like
Right.
like almost every day.
There might be ways to foment like change, rebellion, get the health out of this process that has nothing to do with you going and holding up a sign or a clever T-shirt or whatever.
If you're a hacker, don't go to a protest. Fucking get those tax returns. Like, stay home, work on your computer.
If you're a fan fiction writer, start one of these rogue government accounts and do lie. And spread propaganda, messaging,
That's your
like
resources.
figure out ways to whittle away at the heart of the American people. Yeah. Like what is the angle? Because the frontal assault of the opposition party was like through these like kind of like really brute force misspelled memes and stuff. It was like it appeals to some lizard part of our brain. I don't think we should compete in that playground, but when I see these like rogue government accounts, like it occurs to me, it's like if this is fake, then this is amazing anti-meme technology because it draws in like turning the idea that there's rebellion going on into fan fiction, for instance, and actually properly punctuating and using good grammar to create the illusion that you're reading a Twitter feed from inside the White House as the rebellion is happening. It's like that's like a really important way to use your nerdiness, your whatever. What are we talking about?
What can we do to help?
You're already doing it. In the words of Jello Biafra, don't hate the media, become the media. Go take photos.
Well, I'm asking from the perspective of an audience that's also being kind of encouraged here, but you know, it occurs to me that not everybody in this audience may actually agree with what we're saying, and a lot of the listeners might
that's
not
horseshit.
either. But
Call me and we can talk about it. I want to know what you feel. If you disagree, I'd love to hear how you feel.
But I do think that, like, whatever that means, not everybody's going to be able to go out and protest or whatever it is, you know, that we're talking about.
You're raising your fingers.
Well, let's let her talk, maybe.
I was going to say the groups that you're raising money for, the ACLU, is the absolute best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're fighting right now legally to shut this down immediately, and if you don't have the ability to go outside, you have the ability to get
to support certain to support in things like the ACLU.
For everybody's
Yes.
birthday or upcoming, like if you're going to buy, like I said, like on Twitter, like Valentine's Day or anybody's upcoming birthday, instead of getting them some meaningless like little trinket or whatever like that, just donate any small amount of money to ACLU. Because
especially your redneck families.
I think they average like on a regular year like $3 and $4 million in donations a year. It's over $20 million I think right now. Like since like 2 weeks ago, like since he took office.
So also start giving money to more other organizations.
Exactly.
Because ACLU is good for a minute.
Yeah. It's
no shout to
Sierra
doing
Club.
your matching. That's good. But like also there's like you can't just give to one. There's a
I
bunch.
might have choked back. But we kind of like got in on it, and then we're like, they just reported that they have $200 billion. But I think the ACLU can use every penny.
Absolutely. That's not to say we shouldn't be giving them money.
But donate like time. If you don't have money, donate time, and if you don't have time or money, donate your voice to stuff like that.
If you're a foodie and a chef and you're barely political, you might just be like, I feel bad for hungry people that are protesting at these places. Like, I think the important thing to know as a person that got dropped privilegedly and lazily into the middle of a protest and found out it's actually very comfortable and easy is like, and now therefore may have the courage to like get up and like put on my fanny pack and like go to one. Is that it's easier than you think. It's not a criminal activity. You don't have to commit to like take me to jail, mace me in the face. Like, I think the numbers count, the complexions count for bad reasons, sir. It's because it's an unfair system, whatever. It's like it's just a strategy. It's just more strategy, saying like get the more news articles about a bunch of people like showing up and saying this is bullshit.
I think the imagery is going to speak louder because people stopped reading and people don't believe anything that's told to them. I think pictures of who showed up to which inauguration are undeniable, and the fact that a zillion women came out like that, like what beats that shit? Like nothing beats that, and it was all over the world. Like people did it everywhere. How about the fucking like 12 people in bitter ass cold Alaska? That's like hats off to all of like that picture made me cry. Like that's heavy fucking hitting. Like a picture says way more than any tweet or anything like that. And a bunch of people smiling, and the fact that there were no arrests and everybody I kept stepping on people's toes and they were cool about it. Like during the women's protest, it was fucking magical.
Yeah. Also, I'm so sorry to everybody that's listening from Alabama, Wyoming, all this stuff. Where I'm always taking shits, and it's like I fall for that like red versus blue thing, and it's like. You see these photos, it's like, oh, it's Alabama, and there's like people thrusting signs in the air. It's like, fuck Nazis, it's like, of course.